G'day and welcome. I'm so glad you've taken the time to listen to this story. Whether you're here for the journey or to help you drift off to sleep, I truly appreciate it. This story will be released in parts, with about 4 chapters at a time, so if you're tuning in early, you might need to wait for the next chapters to be released. No matter what brings you here, whether it's to relax or to dive into the story, I'm chuffed to have you along. I hope you find it intriguing and relaxing enough to come back for more. So sit back, relax and enjoy the ride. The rumour mill. Small town life had its charms, friendly faces, community spirit and a sense of belonging that Amelia had begun to cherish. But as she was quickly discovering, it also had its downsides. One of those was the ever-turning wheel of the town's rumour mill. The first sign of trouble came when Margaret casually mentioned it over breakfast one morning. "Did you hear what Mrs. Anderson said at the bakery yesterday?" Margaret asked, peering over her coffee mug. Amelia froze, toast halfway to her mouth. "No. Should I have?" Margaret smirked. "Apparently Jayden has been spending a lot of time at the school. She reckons it's not just the mural that's got him hanging around." Amelia groaned, setting down her toast. "Oh no, that's all I need." Margaret laughed. "Relax, Miss Jones, it's mostly harmless chatter. People are just curious. You're new, you're young, and let's face it, Jayden's not exactly a low-profile kind of guy." The harmless chatter, however, didn't stay so harmless. Over the next few days, Amelia began to notice the sidelong glances and quiet murmurs when she walked into town. At the supermarket, the clerk gave her a knowing smile when Jayden's name came up in conversation. At school, some of the older students giggled whenever she passed them in the hallway. "Miss Jones, are you and Mr. Pierce, like, a thing?" One bold Year 6 student asked during lunch duty, earning her a chorus of "shh" from her classmates. Amelia gave the group a level look. "That's not an appropriate question to ask your teacher," she said firmly, though her cheeks flushed. The tipping point came during a casual conversation with Mrs. Carter, a local parent and enthusiastic volunteer. "You know, dear," Mrs. Carter said, arranging cupcakes on a platter for the school bake sale, "it's wonderful that you're getting along so well with Jayden. Such a lovely boy. But do be careful, won't you? People here can be quick to judge." Amelia forced a polite smile, but her stomach churned. She had worked hard to build her reputation as a professional and dedicated teacher. The idea that people might see her differently because of her connection with Jayden unsettled her. That evening, back at home, Amelia paced the living room, venting her frustrations to Margaret. "I knew this might happen," she said, throwing up her hands. "But it's worse than I thought. It's like I can't even talk to Jayden without people assuming something." Margaret nodded sympathetically. "It's the way of small towns, I'm afraid. People love a good story, especially if it involves a bit of romance." Amelia sighed, sinking onto the couch. "I don't know if I can handle it. What if it starts affecting my job?" Margaret leaned forward, her expression serious. "Listen, Amelia, you're doing an incredible job here. The kids adore you, the parents respect you, and the town is better for having you in it. Don't let a bit of gossip make you doubt yourself." The advice was comforting, but Amelia still felt uneasy. The next day, as she walked to her car after school, she found Jayden leaning against his ute, waiting for her. "Busy day?" he asked, his easy smile taking some of the tension out of her shoulders. "You could say that," she replied, tossing her bag onto the passenger seat. Jayden hesitated, his hands in his pockets. "I've been hearing things," he said carefully, "about us." Amelia's stomach tightened. "Yeah, me too." He stepped closer, his voice low and steady. "Look, I know it's not easy. People here like to talk, but it doesn't mean you have to listen." "I know," she said, meeting his eyes. "It's just hard. I've worked so hard to be taken seriously as a teacher, and now it feels like people are questioning me." Jayden nodded, his expression thoughtful. "You've got nothing to prove, Amelia. The people who matter know who you are and what you're about. The rest, well, they'll find something else to talk about soon enough." His words were reassuring, but what truly comforted her was the sincerity in his eyes. He wasn't just saying it to make her feel better, he believed it. "Thanks," she said softly. They stood there for a moment, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows across the school grounds. For the first time since the rumors started, Amelia felt a sense of calm. By the weekend, the whispers had begun to fade, replaced by the latest town gossip. Margaret was right. People in Longreach loved a good story, but their attention spans were short. For Amelia, the experience was a reminder of the importance of staying true to herself. And for Jayden, it was another step in proving that he was willing to weather life's storms, big or small, by her side. The invitation to speak at the Regional Education Conference arrived on a sunny morning, slipped neatly under the school office door. Amelia stared at the letter in her hands, her heart performing a nervous flip as she read the contents. The organizers had heard about the success of the community mural project and wanted her to present it as an example of fostering student engagement and creativity. Later that evening, Amelia shared the news with Margaret over tea. "They want me to speak at the conference," Amelia said, setting the letter on the table. Margaret didn't miss a beat. "And you're going to say yes, right?" Amelia hesitated. "I'm not sure. I mean, what if I mess it up? I'm no expert, Margaret." Margaret leaned back in her chair, a wry smile tugging at her lips. "Oh, please, Amelia. You stood in front of this town and got half of them to paint a wall without anyone coming to blows. If that's not leadership, I don't know what is." Her students were just as enthusiastic the next day when she mentioned the invitation. "You're going to be amazing, Miss Jones," one of the older boys said, earning nods and cheers from his classmates. Their excitement, paired with Margaret's encouragement, gave Amelia the courage to accept. The day of the conference came all too quickly. Amelia drove to the regional centre early that morning, her nerves humming like an overtuned guitar string. She paced backstage, rehearsing her notes and resisting the urge to bolt. When the event coordinator finally called her name, Amelia stepped onto the stage to polite applause. The spotlight felt uncomfortably bright as she adjusted the microphone, her heart thundering in her chest. And then she saw him. Sitting toward the back, arms casually resting on the seat in front of him, was Jayden. He met her gaze, offering a small nod and a smile that was both steadying and warm. Her breath caught, but instead of unraveling, something inside her clicked into place. She drew herself up and began. Amelia spoke about the mural project, the vision behind it, the challenges they'd faced, and the impact it had on the students and the community. Her voice wavered at first, but as she saw heads nodding in the crowd, her confidence grew. By the time she finished, the applause was enthusiastic and genuine. Afterward, a small group of educators approached her with questions and compliments. Amelia felt a mixture of pride and relief, the weight of the moment finally easing. And then she saw Jayden weaving through the crowd toward her. "You were brilliant, Amelia," he said, his smile broad and sincere. Her cheeks flushed, but she managed a laugh. "You didn't tell me you were coming." "I thought you might need a bit of support," he said with an easy shrug. Seemed like the right thing to do. They left the conference center together, the late afternoon sun casting a golden glow over the parking lot. "I didn't think I'd have the nerve to do that," Amelia admitted, clutching her notebook tightly. "But standing up there, talking about what we've done, it made me realize just how much this place has changed me." Jayden stopped, turning to face her. "Longreach has a way of doing that. It's not always easy, but it has a way of showing you what you're made of." Amelia looked up at him, her heart swelling. "I think I'm starting to feel like I belong here, like I really do have a place in this community." Jayden's expression softened, his gaze lingering on hers. "You do belong here," he said, his voice quiet but certain, and not just in Longreach. The meaning behind his words was unmistakable, and Amelia felt a warmth spread through her chest. Before she could reply, he reached for her hand, his touch light but deliberate. His thumb brushed against hers, sending a spark up her arm. Their eyes met, and for a moment the world seemed to shrink to just the two of them. The gesture was small, but it carried the weight of something much bigger. A connection that had been building for months, now finally stepping into the light. Neither of them spoke as they reached their vehicles, the silence between them humming with possibilities. For the first time, Amelia felt not just welcome in Longreach, but as though she might have found exactly where she was meant to be. A step forward. Amelia's days in Longreach had taken on a comfortable rhythm, and Jayden Pierce had seamlessly become part of that rhythm. Their connection was no longer an unspoken undercurrent, but something tangible. Something felt in the way they lingered after conversations, or how their smiles softened when they caught sight of each other across a room. The shift didn't go unnoticed. One sunny afternoon, as Jayden dropped by the school with a delivery of supplies, the students were quick to piece things together. "Miss Jones, is that your boyfriend?" one brave student asked, drawing laughter from the rest of the class. Amelia flushed but couldn't help smiling. "Focus on your work, you cheeky lot," she replied, but the teasing didn't bother her as much as she thought it might. Outside the school, the small-town grapevine buzzed with news of the budding relationship. Most comments were supportive, but there were murmurs questioning if they were moving too fast. Amelia did her best to brush it off, reminding herself that she couldn't control what others thought. Still, the whispers added an extra layer of pressure. Things came to a head one evening when a misunderstanding arose. Jayden had been unusually quiet during a dinner they'd planned together, his mind clearly elsewhere. Amelia, already feeling the weight of town gossip, interpreted his distraction as hesitation about their relationship. "Is something wrong?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Jayden hesitated, rubbing the back of his neck. "No, I mean, yes, but not in the way you think. I've just been worrying about something on the property, fencing repairs before the next cattle rotation." The explanation, while reasonable, felt like an excuse to Amelia. She couldn't stop the words that tumbled out. "If something's bothering you, Jayden, you need to tell me. I can't keep guessing." The tension between them hung heavy in the air, both too proud to bridge the gap in the moment. Amelia spent the night replaying their conversation, questioning whether she'd overreacted or if her insecurities had taken over. The next day, Jayden appeared at her doorstep with an apologetic smile and a bouquet of hand-picked wildflowers. "I'm sorry, Amelia," he said, his voice soft and earnest. "I should have handled it better. You deserve someone who communicates, and I'll do better." Amelia looked at him, her heart softening. The wildflowers, vibrant and slightly uneven, were a simple but genuine gesture. She took them from him, her fingers brushing against his. "I overreacted too," she admitted. I've never been very good at this, letting people in." Jayden stepped closer, his hazel eyes steady on hers. "We'll figure it out together. I'm not going anywhere." They stood in the doorway for a long moment, the tension from the previous night melting away. Later, as Amelia placed the bouquet in a jar on her kitchen table, she felt a quiet sense of reassurance. The road ahead wouldn't always be easy, but for the first time, she truly believed they'd be walking it side by side. The showdown at the auction. The annual livestock auction was one of Longreach's most anticipated events, a blend of commerce, community spirit, and friendly competition. The entire town gathered for the day-long affair, where farmers showcased their finest livestock and locals enjoyed food, music, and camaraderie. Amelia found herself swept up in the buzz as she set up the school's booth, which displayed artwork and essays from her students about life in the outback. "You've outdone yourself, Miss Jones," one of her students remarked as they helped arrange the colourful projects. "Think we'll win Best Booth?" Amelia grinned. "We'll give the sausage sizzle a run for its money." Not far away, Jayden stood by the auction ring, his easy confidence on full display as he spoke with other ranchers. Amelia couldn't help but glance over, her heart skipping a beat when their eyes met. He tipped his hat with a smile, a gesture that sent warmth flooding through her. The auction began with smaller lots, and Amelia decided to join the action. When a carved wooden sign caught her eye, its intricate lettering reading "Welcome to Longreach," she impulsively raised her paddle. "Miss Jones," Jayden called from his spot near the auctioneer, "you starting a collection?" "I might be," she shot back with a playful smirk. The crowd chuckled, enjoying the exchange. Jayden, not one to be outdone, bid against her once, then dramatically lowered his paddle. "I know when I'm beat," he said, eliciting laughter and a few cheers. Amelia won the sign, her cheeks flushed with triumph and delight. The light-hearted mood shifted when it was time to auction the prize steer from Jayden's family's property. The animal, a massive black Angus named Titan, had drawn attention for weeks. As the bidding began, it quickly escalated between Jayden and a rancher from a neighbouring town, Mr. Calloway, whose competitive streak was as well known as his stubbornness. Amelia watched from the sidelines, sensing the tension rising with each bid. It wasn't just about the steer, it was about pride and reputation. Jayden's jaw tightened as he matched each of Calloway's offers, but she could tell the situation was taking a toll. An idea struck her. Amelia slipped away from the booth and made her way to the auctioneer's stand. Leaning close, she whispered her suggestion, earning a raised eyebrow and a quick nod. "Ladies and gentlemen," the auctioneer announced, his booming voice cutting through the crowd, "I've just been informed of an exciting twist. Instead of letting this competition end in a bidding war, why not turn it into a community event? We'll split the steer. Half the proceeds go to Mr. Pierce, and the other half will be donated to the local school fund. What do you say?" A murmur of approval rippled through the crowd. Even Calloway couldn't argue with the idea, and he nodded begrudgingly. Jayden looked over at Amelia, his expression a mix of surprise and gratitude. As the auctioneer hammered down the final price, the crowd erupted in applause. Amelia returned to her booth, her heart pounding. Jayden found her moments later, a broad smile breaking through his earlier tension. "That was clever," he said, his hazel eyes warm with admiration. "You've got a knack for diffusing situations." She shrugged, though her cheeks turned pink. "It just seemed like the right thing to do." "It was more than that," Jayden said, stepping closer. "You've got a way of bringing people together, Amelia. This town's lucky to have you." Her breath caught, and for a moment they stood there, the noise of the auction fading into the background. As the day wound down and the crowd began to disperse, Amelia looked at the carved wooden sign she'd won, now resting on the table. "Welcome to Longreach," it read. She smiled, thinking it couldn't have been more fitting. A brush with the past. It started with an unexpected call. Amelia was tidying up after a busy day at school when her phone buzzed. Seeing the name Claire Bennett flash on the screen brought a surge of nostalgia. Claire had been her best friend at university, her partner in late-night study sessions, coffee-fueled rants and dreams of life beyond their small classrooms. "Claire?" Amelia answered, her voice tinged with surprise and delight. "Amelia, I'm passing through Longreach tomorrow on my way to a conference. Any chance you're free for coffee? It's been too long." Amelia's heart leapt. "Of course. I'd love to catch up." The next day, they met at the local cafe. Claire hadn't changed much, still effortlessly chic, her sharp wit and lively stories filling the air. They laughed over old memories, But as Claire talked about her fast-paced job in the city and upcoming overseas trips, Amelia couldn't help but feel a pang of doubt. Had she settled too soon? "You've really landed on your feet here," Claire said, glancing out the window at Longreach's dusty streets. "But don't you miss the buzz? The energy of somewhere bigger?" Amelia hesitated, sipping her tea. "Sometimes, I wonder. But I love what I'm doing here. The kids, the community, it's fulfilling in a way I never expected." Claire smiled but didn't hide her skepticism. "I get that, but don't forget to think about your future, okay? You're meant for big things, Amelia." The words lingered long after Claire left. That evening, as Amelia stood on her porch, watching the sun dip below the horizon, her thoughts churned. Was she really making the most of her potential here? Jayden arrived a short while later, sensing her unease before she even spoke. "Rough day?" he asked, leaning casually against the railing, a calming presence as always. "More like complicated," she admitted, explaining Claire's visit. Jayden listened thoughtfully, then grinned. "Come on, I've got something to show you." Curious, Amelia followed him to his ute. They drove out past the usual paddocks, farther than she'd ever ventured on his property, until they reached a grove of trees nestled near a winding creek. "This," Jayden said, spreading his arms, "was my favorite spot growing up." Amelia stepped out and looked around. The setting was magical, towering gum trees, their leaves rustling softly in the breeze, surrounded a sparkling creek. A handmade swing hung from one of the trees, its weathered rope and wooden seat hinting at years of use. Jayden picked up a flat stone and skipped it across the water. "Whenever I needed to clear my head, I came here. It always reminded me what matters most." Amelia joined him by the creek, taking in the peaceful scene. "It's beautiful," she said softly. They talked as the evening deepened. Jayden shared stories of childhood adventures and moments of doubt about his place in the family business. "There were times I thought about leaving," he admitted, "but the more I explored, the more I realized this was where I belonged. It's not perfect, but it's home." His words resonated with Amelia. As she sat on the swing, gently rocking back and forth, she reflected on the contrast between the city life Claire had described and the quiet, fulfilling rhythm of Longreach. "This place has a way of getting under your skin, doesn't it?" she said, a smile tugging at her lips. Jayden stepped closer, his expression serious but warm. "You're part of that, Amelia. Longreach is better with you in it." Her heart swelled at his words. In that moment, surrounded by the simple beauty of the outback and the steadfast presence of Jayden, Amelia felt a deep sense of clarity. The doubts that had clouded her mind began to dissipate. She wasn't just building a life here, she was becoming part of something bigger, a community, a future, a home. As the stars emerged overhead, Amelia looked at Jayden, her resolve solidifying. "I think I needed this," she said. "Thank you." "Anytime," he replied, his smile as steady as the land around them. The night ended with a quiet walk back to the ute, their steps in sync. As they drove home, Amelia gazed out at the sprawling landscape, the doubts from earlier feeling like distant echoes. She was where she was meant to be. Thank you so much for giving your time and attention to this part of the story. It means the world to me. If you enjoyed the journey so far, please take a moment to share your thoughts in the comments. What parts resonated with you? Did anything stand out, make you laugh, or move you? If you have feedback on ways I can improve or ideas for future stories, I'd love to hear them. Your insights not only help me grow as a storyteller, but also inspire new adventures to explore. Until we meet again in the next part of this tale, I wish you relaxation, peacefulness, and moments of joy in your own journey.